Biological receptors. Biological receptors play a very important role in biological control systems because the output of every control system is sensed by these receptors that are present in our body, and the information is sent back to brain from where a corrective measure or corrective action will be taken. So there are many external and internal sensory receptors in our body which provide feedback for either homeostatic regulators or tracking servo mechanisms. Some of the examples of biological receptors are baroreceptors that are present in arterial that sense arterial blood pressure, that are present in carotid sinus for cardiovascular control. Chemoreceptors that senses the CO2 tension in carotid glomus for respiratory control. Cutaneous pain and touch receptors, cochlear mechanoreceptors of sound, etc. So here we will discuss the analytic modeling for a particular mechanoreceptor that measures, that senses the mechanical change in any muscle. And finally, a feedback model for sensory reception will be discussed. So here we assume that there is input output. The relationship here in the biological receptor is mechanoreceptor is deterministic. The input output relationship is deterministic, means if we know the input, we know the output. So for known input of constant value, impulse frequency of single receptor afferent exhibits some irregularities. So we know the input is a constant value, so output should also be a constant value. But sometimes we find that impulse frequency of the receptors exhibit some irregularities, but such irregularities, they tend to average over either an ensemble of receptors, means the output of many receptors will seem as a regular output, or it becomes average. These irregularities, they tend to decrease over a period of time, so that we get a deterministic output for a deterministic input, or we can say that we can obtain a deterministic model. So receptor characteristics. Here we will review the functional nature of the receptor characteristics. So the following functions are performed by the receptors. First is the stimulation mechanism. What is the stimulation mechanism in receptors? Each receptor is most sensitive to a particular form of energy. Means they are very sensitive to a specific type of energy, but they may respond to other forms of energies too. So the form to which it is most sensitive, it is called as adequate stimulus. The response of the receptor, it produces in the form of impulses or spikes that are propagated along the afferent nerves. Afferent nerves, the nerves that carry signal towards the brain. And the signal is of the nature of all or none nature of discharge. Means either the neurons will discharge or they will not discharge. So the doctrine of specific nerve energies states that if any receptor discharges as a result of stimulation by another form, then it's adequate stimulus. For example, seeing stars when one's eye is hit. CNS perceives it as the intended stimulus. Means one is the adequate stimulus and one is the intended stimulus. Adequate stimulus is the kind of energy to which the receptor is most sensitive, while intended stimulus is the kind of energy for which the receptor is not most stimulus, but it provides some output. For example, the function of eyes is to visualize the things. But if we hit the eye, we can see stars. A star-like appearances starts occurring there in our eyes. So this kind of stimulus, the eyes are not sensitive to a mechanical hit type stimulus that is given to the eye, but it is sensitive to visual kind of stimulus. So that type of stimulus is called as intended stimulus. There are two phases of energy, conversion and modulation in receptors. Means the energy that is sensed by the receiver will process this energy into two phases. So the first phase is converting from adequate stimulus to a common mechanism which can produce impulses. So what is this common mechanism? It is a depolarization of neurons, or we can call it at generator potential. Means production of generator potential in response to the adequate stimulus. This is the first phase. Its dynamics correlate well with the input stimuli and the impulse frequency. Means the generator potential that is produced is very much correlated with the input adequate stimulus and the impulse frequency that is produced finally. The second phase, it involves converting from generator potential to the impulse frequency. Means first the adequate stimulus, for example sound energy is the adequate stimulus, so sound energy will be converted into generator potential, and in second phase the generator potential will be converted into impulse frequency, the frequency that is being carried out by our neurons. So this conversion is almost linear in steady state. So the second phase is common in all neural receptors, means generator potential is converted into impulse frequency. This is common in all neural frequencies. But the first phase, it differs because the type of adequate stimulus is different. For example, somewhere the adequate stimulus is light, somewhere the adequate stimulus is sound, somewhere adequate stimulus is pressure. So different kind of adequate stimuli are being converted into generator potential. So here the differences are there. We can visualize a relationship between impulse frequency and generator potential. We can see that almost it is a linear relationship. Response to the stimulus intensity. As per Weber-Fechner generalization, receptor output varies as the logarithm of the stimulus intensity. Here also there is power law or logarithmic relationship exists between the receptor output and the stimulus intensity. But we know that the second phase, that is conversion of impulse frequency from generator potential, it is linear. So where the logarithmic relationship lies? Obviously it lies in the first stage where adequate stimulus is converted into generator potential. So there is a practical upper limit of impulse frequency of about 500 impulses per second from any single receptor due to saturation. Means there is a saturation level of any neuron, that is 500 impulses per second, and there is a practical lower limit also, that is 2 impulses per second due to noise level or neuronal forgetting, etc. Means if no input is there, still there are 2 impulses per second generated by the neurons. However, this range can cover a very large range of input stimuli. Output is this, but input stimuli, there is a large range of input stimuli corresponding to which this kind of range, means 2 impulses per second to 500 impulses per second output is produced. So this represents the logarithmic sensitivity relationship. So nature's further technique for extending the response range is to recruit more receptors as the stimulus intensity increases. If the stimulus intensity increases further, then naturally more receptors are being engaged in this process. The information is sent to central nervous system through efferent pathway. Efferent pathway is the pathway that is moving away from the brain. So information is sent to CNS through efferent pathways, and these are responsible for setting threshold levels so that CNS need not to be burdened with the data processing of the information to which it is not currently interested. Means this setting of the threshold has some significance, because if the threshold is threshold is very high, then the data that is gathering at the CNS level becomes too much and the CNS becomes overburdened. So a particular level of threshold is necessary for reducing the data burden on the CNS. Third function is spontaneous discharge. Means the neurons, the receptors will keep on discharging even if there is no input. This is called as spontaneous discharge. Means adequate stimulus is at 0 level, still we get some impulse frequency. So we call it as a DC level of impulse frequency due to the following 2 phenomena. First is this DC level, it is there because of 2 phenomena. One is the centrifugal control. Centrifugal control means we are aware of the surrounding, what is happening around us. Even if we are not focusing on a particular thing, we are focusing on studying at this time. But if something is falling around us, or some sound is creating around us, or a wind is blowing strongly around us, then we can sense all those informations too. So this information is called as centrifugal control, where efferent innervation of many receptors permits selective filtering of environmental sensory information. So such informations are very important for central arousal. Means these informations will make us awake or stop us falling asleep. These are responsible for organisms' awakeness. Second property is bidirectionality. Bidirectionality means same receptor exhibits two opposite type of responses, such as muscle spindle. Means it is responsible for elongation as well as contraction. But sometimes two different receptors are used for bidirectionality. For example, hot and cold thermoreceptors. We have a different thermoreceptor for sensing the hot sensation, and we have different thermoreceptor for sensing the cold sensation. Fourth function of receptor is adaptation and rate sensitive. What do you mean by adaptation? Means if the receptor is subjected to a rapid increase in the stimulus from some equilibrated level to another steady level, then what happens? The impulse discharge frequency typically shows an almost instantaneous jump to high value, followed by a decay to some new level. Means if we suddenly increase the stimulus level, then suddenly we will get an increase in the neural discharge, but after some time it will become constant, or it will achieve a steady state level or new level. This process is called as adaptation. Adaptation can be of two types: slow adaptation and fast adaptation. Slow adaptation means maintaining response long after rate sensitive response has died away. Rate sensitive response is what? It is the continuous change in the neural frequency as per the changing stimulus. This is rate sensitive response. It is quite fast at the start, but after that, if the response takes long after the rate sensitive response has died away, means after a longer time of finishing of rate sensitive response, if the receptor achieves a steady state level after a long time, then this kind of adaptation is called as slow adaptation. But if it becomes equilibrated within a short interval of time, for example 1 second, it is called as fast adaptation.